everyone, welcome to DIY with Nancy. Around the holiday season, I tend to like to make a lot of cookies. Doesn't matter what they are, shortbread cookies, sugar cookies, biscoitos, which are Portuguese cookies. There's a variety of cookies, and I was looking through my binder and I said, you know, what cookies am I gonna make? My binder of recipes. And I came across this recipe that was given to me by a friend of mine, Selena, and I was like, oh, I forgot, you know, I have this recipe. And of course, it consists of one of my favorite ingredients. And I'm going to make Biscoitos de Coco. They're Portuguese cookies with coconut. Simple, easy to make, take a little time, but you know what? In the end, it's all worth it. So I hope you stay with me today to watch how to make Biscoitos de Coco, coconut biscoitos, step by step.
Now here's the list of the ingredients you'll need for this recipe. 8 cups of all-purpose flour, 8 eggs at room temperature, and I'm using large eggs, 2.5 cups of granulated sugar, 1.5 cups of melted butter, unsalted, 200 grams of sweetened coconut, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of salt, and finally, the zest of 1 lemon. For the first step, we're going to mix all the ingredients in this large bowl, starting off with the all-purpose flour. I'm going to place that in the bowl, and we're going to add all the other dry ingredients and wet ingredients, but first we're going to add the dry. Next, I'm adding the granulated sugar. To that, I'm adding the baking powder, the baking soda, and last is the salt. So I'm going to place that in there. Now before I add the wet ingredients, I'm just going to take a wooden spoon and I'm going to mix all the dry ingredients, make sure they're well incorporated with the baking soda, the baking powder, the sugar. It's all mixed in there. And then I'm going to add the wet ingredients. Once I've combined the dry ingredients, I'm ready for the wet ingredients. I'm starting off with the eggs, then the butter, which is melted and unsalted. To that, I'm going to add the lemon zest. Last but not least, the sweetened coconut, some flakes. I'm going to pour it all in there, and just using your hands, you're just going to combine all the ingredients until the cookie dough forms. Now, as you can see, the dough for the biscoitos have come together nicely. I've been kneading for about 5 minutes. You want to make sure it's all well combined. I just want to show you the texture. It's soft but firm, enough that you're able to roll it into a biscoito. Now, it's important that I show you the texture of this dough. It's a soft dough, but it's going to be holding a log, a little skinny log that I'm going to roll. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean. It's soft, but it has a rolling, it will hold the firmness of rolling a biscoito. But we're going to place this dough aside and let it rest for 1 hour and move on to the next step. For the next step, while we're waiting for the dough to rest, I'm showing you the trays that I use for making these biscoitos. You can use any tray, square, round, doesn't matter. But it's important that you spray it with baking spray so your biscoitos don't stick to your baking tray. Okay, the dough's been resting for about an hour, and because it's been resting, I just want to move around the dough, knead it for like 5-10 seconds, and then we're ready to roll. Now for the next step, I'm going to show you how to roll the biscoitos. I have a cutting board and a tablecloth underneath so it doesn't slide. I'm going to take a piece of the dough and I'm going to roll it into a thick log. And I'm going to leave that on the cutting board, and then I'm going to slowly take little pieces of the dough and simply just roll it in my hand to form a little ball. Then place it onto the cutting board just like that. Using one hand, I'm just going to roll it by pressing it down slightly to stretch it out, just like that. And then I'm simply going to use my 2 hands to roll out a thin log, just as I'm doing here. And once I have the thin log formed, I'm going to take the ends and pin them together and place them onto the baking tray. I'm going to do it again. So I'm going to take a piece of the dough from the log that I rolled out, form it into a ball just like that, using one hand, flattening it out and stretching out the dough into a thin log, and then using my 2 hands to stretch it out to a longer piece. So essentially what you want to do is just roll it into a thin log, clip it together just like that, and then you could place it on the baking tray and then reshape your Biscoitos de Coco and leave 2 inches apart when you're placing them on the baking tray. Now I normally form the Biscoitos de Coco in 2 shapes. This is one of the shapes. I'm going to fill up this tray and then I'll show you another way to shape your Biscoitos de Coco. I have my first tray all rolled out for the Biscoitos de Coco, and now I'm going to move on to the next one. Now for the other shape that I'd like to make the Biscoitos de Coco, same concept, take a piece of the dough, roll it into a ball, place it onto the board using one hand, stretch out the dough, then using your 2 hands, form it into a thin log. Then you're going to place it into a U shape, just like that. Take the open ends, hold them together with your left hand while your right hand does the rolling into a twist, just like that. And there, you get a Biscoitos of Coco shaped into a twist. We're going to do it again. I'm going to roll it into a thin log, U shape. With your left hand, clip the open ends. With your right hand, roll it into a twist, just like that. But that's just another way to roll your Biscoitos de Coco. Again, keeping in mind to leave about 2 inches apart, as the Biscoitos de Coco will expand in the oven. Now here's another tray that's full and ready to go into the oven. I have about 5 trays ready. I'm going to start by placing them in the oven. Now generally this recipe will make you about 9 dozens of Biscoitos de Coco. Now these make great little gifts, great to package to give family and friends for the holiday season. Okay, the Biscoitos de Coco are ready to go into the oven. I have my oven preheated to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to bake them in the oven for about 12 to 14 minutes. I'm going to start off with placing the first tray in the bottom, then I'm going to switch it to the middle, and then place it on the top. So I'm going to show you what the concept is so you understand how we bake the Biscoitos here on our home. So the first tray is going to go on the bottom, and I'm going to close the oven, and I'm going to leave it there for about 4 minutes. After 4 minutes, I'm going to open the oven and move the bottom tray to the middle tray. And then I'm going to place a new tray of Biscoitos in the bottom tray. And I'm going to now close the oven and leave the bottom one and the middle one for another 4 minutes. So that way it's baking in the bottom and browned in the middle. And I'm going to move the one in the middle now and place it on the top rack, move the bottom one to the middle rack, and then get a fresh tray and place it right in the bottom. And so that's how I get the Biscoitos to bake for about 12 minutes. Now, if you like them darker, you can leave them for an additional 2 minutes. And the first tray is ready. I want you to see what it looks like. Beautiful color. They're perfect. They're warm and ready to be served. And that, my friends, is how I make my Biscoitos de Coco.
And there you have it, everyone. That's how I make Biscoitos de Coco. I want to thank my friend Selena for providing me the recipe. And you know what? They're not overpowering with coconut. So it's not a huge coconut flavor. There's some coconut flakes or some shredded coconut in here. You can make it in several shapes, like I showed you. You can make it in this shape, like a little twist shape, or you can make it in a biscoit shape. You can also add orange zest instead of lemon zest. And if you really like coconut, on top of the coconut flakes or shredded coconut that you added to the recipe, you can also add about a tablespoon of coconut extract. And then you get a little bit more of the coconut flavor, but these are so delicious. You can place them in a tight sealed container. They'll last quite some time. They stay fresh. They're great to place on a table for your guests to have some coffee or tea. We just leave them on the counter and slowly we dig at them. It's a simple recipe. It does take some time, but in the end, it's all worth it. They're delicious. I hope you all enjoyed the recipe for Biscoitos de Coco. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Take care.